and gentlemen, please welcome Rochelle Diamond and Rich Smith.
I am in it to make meaningful connections and create opportunities for inspiration. So you can imagine how excited I am that I get to organize our LinkedIn speaker series here at LinkedIn, which is all about that. It's about bringing in inspiring ideas and diverse, innovative thinkers with different perspectives to make our members and our employees more productive and successful. I'm Rochelle Diamond. I'm on our employee experience team, and I am so excited to welcome you all here today. This room is packed, it's amazing. And also welcome to you on this stream as well. This is just really exciting. So we've been really fortunate with this speaker series to bring in amazing people. Everyone from Condoleezza Rice, Ariana Huffington, to Laird Hamilton and Steve Young. The list just goes on and on. And I want to make sure you all know that if you want to see any of the past speakers, you can catch them at speakers.linkedin.com, or you can also download it as a podcast on our iTunes channel. So you may not know, but one of the reasons we're able to get these amazing people to come here is through the relationships and the connections of our employees. And that's why I've asked Rich here to join me on stage today, because Rich was instrumental in making the connection with Andre and making this event today possible. So let's give a big round of applause to Rich. Making an impact. Oh. Okay, no, that's okay. And come on in. I'm gonna pass it to Rich, who will get to officially introduce our amazing speakers today.
All right, I'll keep this brief. I know we're all here to hear everyone talk, but thank you, Rochelle, for the kind introduction. For those who don't know me, I'm Rich Smith. I work on the business development team here at LinkedIn. Thrilled by the opportunity to introduce our speakers here today. With that said, they don't need any introductions, so I thought I'd do a quick thank you and anecdote, and then turn it over to why we're here today. So first of all, I just want to thank Jeff for your leadership and commitment to LinkedIn. Without it, we wouldn't have the opportunity to work here and enjoy amazing events like this. So for that, thank you. And Andre, thanks for taking the time to join us here today. It's an honor to have you here. For those of you that may know Andre for his on-the-court pursuits, which have included NBA championships, an NBA Finals MVP, Olympic gold medal, or even his time as a Wildcat at the University of Arizona. There you go. A couple there.
Wildcat fan. It's kind of weird, random.
Many of you may not know his pursuits off the court, and that's how I've gotten to know Andre. Over the years, have gotten to sort of work with him and his team on his media investing and technology business, and it's been a real honor to do that and have that come to life here today. So with that, thank yous and anecdotes out of the way, I'd like you all to join me in welcoming our speakers, Jeff Weiner and Andre Iguodala.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
We get crowds like this all the time for interviews. This is this is nuts. I was telling Andre as we were sitting off to the side, I can't recall ever seeing a crowd like this for an interview, certainly in the 10 and a half years that I've been here. And it's obviously a testament to the admiration, the inspiration, the love people feel for you, for what you've meant to the Bay Area. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad to be here.
So, ton of ground to cover.
Yes.
So I'm just going to dive in. We are going to try to leave plenty of time for Q&A towards the end. So let's just get started. One of the first things I did when I found out we were going to have the opportunity to talk today was check out your LinkedIn profile. Very impressive. And one of the things that jumped out at me was your headline, that one line underneath your name. It's the first thing people see when you get to a profile. And yours said entrepreneur, venture capitalist, NBA athlete. So you strike me as being someone who is incredibly deliberate and thoughtful, and I was curious about the order of those three things.
Yes. So as Rich was naming off some of the accolades, I'm thinking like, that's all right. Just forget about that stuff. A lot of my, um, energy and intentions, they're still on the basketball court, and that's what's put me in the position to be where I am right now. But I'm sort of in that transition phase of moving into a space that's very challenging for me. Not, I shouldn't say challenging, but it's intriguing. And I think I thrive off challenges and seeking out things that take me to the depths of my brain. It really helps me hold myself accountable in terms of keeping up with the knowledge, making sure I do my homework, lay the groundwork, lay the foundation to put myself in a position to fulfill, the goals you have for yourself, but also to bring other athletes with me. And that's definitely one of the keys and I've started the Tech Summit, is to get athletes to think much bigger than just the games that we're involved with. Obviously, the games that we're involved with has a lot of influence globally. As you see, basketball is becoming, I think it's number 2 in the world, and the battle with football is back and forth, but our global influence is not just in sports anymore, but it's going into other areas, and bridging that gap between tech and sports, because both are on the up and up in terms of valuation and the disruption of tech, especially with content, and then sports being the only real live content that's left in terms of its value with marketers and advertisers.
So I think those 3 areas, I'd like to delve deeper into all 3 of them. But before we do, you could just as easily have added a 4th description, which is best-selling author, the 6th man. Very well done. Could you talk a little bit about your objectives in terms of writing the book?
Well, it seems like it was a gift and a curse with the book. It was really just a gift, being able to put everything out and going through the process. I'm a process guy, so I enjoy the process more than anything. Having to sacrifice and maneuver your time and time away from things you would enjoy doing more, but understanding the ultimate goal. And then when it comes to fruition, you're like, wow, that work was put in for a reason, and how can I put that into something else and start another process? So with the book, it was a lot of fun. I think we did better than we expected, but I'm not really surprised, I guess, because I'm not really like, we win the championship. I'm like, okay, we won. Let's start trying to win next year. So I'm more in that mode. But the team is like, we're getting a lot of fanfare, and we got great reception, and it's coming from this fan base has been great. But with the book, what I wanted really to do was kind of lay the groundwork of where I come from and how I think, and how the influence of my mother and my grandmother had on me in terms of the way I thought and the way that I saw life, and how I interacted with others, and how others interacted with me. So that was a pretty big theme growing up, is seeing someone else's perspective just by approaching them. So I've learned to know who's a good fan and who's a bad fan. And I'm trying to explain it to my wife, which is really funny. We're out to eat a lot, and she doesn't get as much time with me. And I understand that because we're on the road so much. So I'm trying to get her to understand, like, okay, this is a good fan. It's going to be a really good, quick interaction, versus this person's going to try to take up 10 minutes of our time, and I know how to keep them at bay, keep them to the side. So,
hang on. What's the pattern recognition you're looking for? For good fan, bad fan. And this may blow it, because now everyone's going to know what you're looking for, and the bad fans are going to act like good fans.
Yes. So, okay, here's a good analogy. Okay, so the movie Oceans, one of those oceans, 12 or 13, 14, 15, one of those, right? So they can tell the actual excitement in someone winning on the slot machine, right? Versus if it's kind of plotted and someone knew it was like a trick to winning the slot machine, and this person generally was excited, like, I can't believe I just won. So the real fans, they have that real excitement, and you can kind of see it, like, okay, there's genuine excitement, there's a real fan, like they really appreciate this time. And then there's those others that's kind of like creepy, like, They're trying to like, they try
Wait,
to like,
what was that move? What was that
they
move?
try to like maneuver their, they try to maneuver their way like.
It's not the Steph shimmy.
And
It's not the shimmy.
Steph shimmy. It's like I see you, like stop. It's like stop. And then you get those clear bag people. There's like 20 articles in the clear bag, and it's like you're gonna go sell that. So
Got it. All right.
so you figure that out.
Super helpful.
But that was instilled in me at a young age, and really by my mother and the experiences that I went through with her, and seeing how people viewed me or saw me just because of my gender or my race, and just interaction of going through life, and how that's kind of helped me navigate through the world and still be focused and have the right intentions when I'm interacting with these people. It's kind of like you have to play that political game. And being able to express that is not always easy, especially in our community. We talk about mental health, and we talk about a lot about the phobia of going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And I was able to, it was kind of therapeutic doing a book. You learn a lot about yourself as well. So the main objective is to get athletes just to not be afraid to expose themselves. Because one thing I wanted to do was not place any blame anywhere but on myself, and take it as something that's reflective and something I can learn from and move forward, and hope others can do the same.
So let's stay on the book and those early influences. Silicon Valley loves a good origin story. And you spent a lot of time in the book talking about your origins and those very important early influences, both in terms of geography, Springfield, Illinois, and in terms of the three people you mentioned already, those critical family members, your grandmother, your mother, and your brother. Could you talk a little bit about how important those influences were on you?
Yeah, so I felt like it was, everything happens for a reason, and you start having, your faith is strengthened when you start really reflecting and seeing, like, my grandmother's from the South Arkansas, so, the racial tensions there were a little bit different. And then my mother grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, which was, as Missouri, it's kind of like, it's still almost South, but it's like, it's kind of in between. And then with me being in Springfield, Illinois, I talk about in the book, there was a Underground Railroad path that ran straight through Springfield that not too many people know about. And the NAACP was started in Springfield, Illinois as well. So, we had a lot of, I had a lot of interaction with the Boys and Girls Club, the Urban League, and a lot of these communities that try to help kids from my community have a brighter future, or just have the realization that there's something bigger. I talk about in the book that we have the tendency to get stuck in that small town mindset and afraid to get out. My first plane ride was 16, and my mother, she used to always say, go as far away from home as possible. Get out, get out, get out, get out. And they don't quite understand it when you're young, but when you do get out and you're able to see the world, the earlier the better, because now you're not afraid. And having a small town mindset where I'm from, we had a lot of great athletes who have the talent to get out, but it's that mindset that they're afraid to get out. So the influence of my mom was just get out, go see the world. And I just had a great conversation with Robert Smith. I hope he doesn't mind me telling this, but he has this second son theory. I have no idea what it means, but I didn't get a chance to ask him what it meant. But second son theory is something that he holds close to him, in terms of you have that older figure who's able to make all the mistakes, but the second son is the one reflecting and seeing from afar, like, oh, okay, don't do this, don't do that. And my brother and I, we had that competitive thing too, where I was always competing against him, and that's what drove me, is to always try to beat him. And he didn't quite, I don't think he's ever realized how big of an influence, because we didn't get along as kids. I was just always chasing him and trying to beat him. But that's just stayed with me throughout, like, you are your foundation. So my foundation was whatever I'm involved in, I'm competitive. Like, my wife will always tell you, like, I'm the worst Uno player. Because I stuff it in my son's face and I stuff it in her face. Like, but that's
How old's your son?
He's 12.
12.
But like, I've been doing it since he was like 6. Like it's just something I've just been born with. Like, I have to win. But even with my business partner, Rudy Klein Thomas, who's been the brains behind our whole operation. What we're trying to do is, I'm trying to gain as much knowledge as him. So I'm trying to beat him to the words he's trying to say. It's like, I got to keep up. I got to keep up. And it's not to try to win, but I guess it's just trying to maximize yourself. So those three. And then my grandmother, she had a foster care home. It was always 10 to 15 people at the house, 24/7, like all the time. So just that, learning how to deal with different personalities, learn how to deal with less fortunate people in their situations, and having a sympathy and compassion for that. It was just always constantly people there. She was cooking, cleaning, and making sure everyone was good, and making sure everyone was cared for and loved. All those things kind of helped shape me. And I'm still work in progress, but I had some pretty good figures throughout my life.
What age did you start to recognize that you could potentially play basketball professionally? Do you remember? Was there a moment when it kind of hit you?
Well, I was a late bloomer, so I was always good in Springfield. Like, I was always good there at that age. And like I said, I didn't get a chance to, I didn't fly on a plane until I was 16, and there was the AAU tournament. I went to New York, and that was just like an eye-opening experience. Like, I was just shocked, and you don't really know how good you are until you get completely away from where you're from in that environment. And I still didn't quite know. So I didn't actually know I had a chance to be an NBA player until my sophomore year of college. Because you just kind of blinded by your environment. Like, I always knew I was good, but then when I went out and played against other guys, I saw like one of the best players I ever seen the earliest was Carmelo Anthony. And I was a senior in high school, or it was after my senior year. We played together on the USA team, and we played one-on-one. And it was the fastest 5 points I've ever seen. And I was like, Jesus. And so you don't know, like, he was an NBA player then, and I'm still figuring myself out. Like, I'm 175 pounds, I'm 220 now, so I'm the same height. So imagine how skinny I was. So but then once at each level, I was able to get confidence. And I always tell the story of the word confidence, how important confidence is on any level. Even in the NBA, you have 450 of the best basketball players in the world, and the 450th player could easily be a top 30 player if he's in the right situation with the right people that believe in him. And if his confidence is here, it's night and day. So for me, it was just I didn't realize how good I was. So the confidence wasn't really there until I got in the situation. It took me a year, half a year to say, I belong. So that was each step of the way. Even in high school, playing varsity, like I wasn't on varsity team until I was a junior in high school. And I was like, I belong. Like, okay, I figured it out. And then you get to college, and you're there for a year, and I'm like, okay, this is why Luke Walton is beating me every day, even though he's a slow white guy. I couldn't figure that out. I'm like, how is he beating me every day? And then you get smarter and smarter, and you learn from him. Like, I learned, people always ask me how I can pass, and I say, this is a white guy named Luke Walton. Taught me how to pass the basketball. But once I learned that, I'm like, I figured it out. And then I got to the NBA, and I'm alongside Allen Iverson, who's a Hall of Famer, and it's like, I'll never be anywhere close to him. And then he's telling me, I talk about in the book, he told me one time, he was like, I was talking about a player that I grew up idolizing. It was Richard Hamilton. And he went to UConn, and I watched him in high school. And I was like, man, he's my favorite player. And I was talking about him in the game, and Allen Iverson was like, you idiot, you just as good as him. And I was like, no, I'm not. He was like, oh my God. So and then I talk about faith again, and it's like you're putting in situations, and people are putting your life at certain points to help you out along the way. And that was just like perfect timing. He let me know, like, you're just as good as all these guys.
So I want to come back to the idea of people that believe in you in just a minute in the context of coaching. But when you said the word confidence and you talked about your progression, I got to share an observation with you. And I've literally always said to myself, if I ever get a chance to meet him, I'm going to ask this question. There's been at least 2 occasions where I've seen you make a game-saving play. And do you know what you did after it was a defensive stop? Do you know what you do? You, no. You have, and you've discussed the whole strategy and what you're doing and the anticipation. And you know, there's a lot going on in your head, and it's brilliant. It's one of the reasons you're one of the best defenders in the league. But after the game ended, you started running down the court and then the hall to the locker room, and you started looking at your hands, like, you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I've seen it at least twice.
Yes.
And so I said, if I ever, and it really, I was like, what is he thinking? Like, he's got to know how good he is already. He has to know he's capable of. So you've been talking about the importance of confidence. What's going through, if you're comfortable sharing.
So one of our core, we're going to talk about it, the core values that Steve Kerr has, and one of them is joy. And we've won so much. I keep saying we'll always be we. I'm always part of the Warrior.
Yeah.
So we have this thing called joy, and we've won so much that you start seeing people trying to, you know, it's kind of like that creepy fan trying to creep in, and people become envious of our success, and you know, from the media to being on the road, and people stand in front of the buses, don't want us to get to the game. Like, that's really happened, and it really is. They try to take the joy, kind of strip the joy away from it. You know, we always talk about this. You know, it was a tough year because we weren't able to just go out and enjoy the game. We've always had these outside factors trying to creep in and trying to tear us apart. So when you see, it's like some people may say, you know, we coached the game ourselves one time, you know, and that was just part of Steve Kerr's plan to say we got to stay engaged. You know, let's make it fun. You know, how can I keep you guys engaged? We could become monotonous, you know, 82-game season, and you know, we always talk about let's just get to the playoffs, but you have to still go through the process. So we always try to make the game enjoyable for ourselves and for our teammates. So you see Steph doing the shimmy, or, you know, Clay has the greatest halftime and post-game interviews. You know, it sounds dry, but that's him having fun. You know, so, you know, and then Draymond's always being Draymond, but that's how he's being, he's passionate, and that's how we're trying to express ourselves. So anytime we try to find a way to enjoy the game. So we're so locked in, and we're always, sometimes we can be uptight because anything we say can be taken out of context, or anything we do can be taken out of context. So we take those moments when we having those successful moments, or we have those, you know, game-changing plays to really have fun. You see our bench going crazy all the time. So in that moment, I'm always in practice stripping guys, and guys like, how you always doing that? How you always doing that? And so I'm like, okay, anytime I get a strip, I'm gonna stare in my hands or something like that. So when the strip happened, first thing I did was like get the ball to Steph. So I stole it, got to Steph, and then the game's over now, so just make a beeline. And then I'm not a huge fan of post-game interviews because Doris Burke is really good, though. I like doing her interviews, but you don't get too many good questions. So that was my way of not having to do a post-game interview. But at the same time, giving our viewers something by being expressive.
All right.
So two birds, one stone. So.
I'm very glad I asked. Okay, let's come back to the importance of confidence and the people that helped instill that in you from a coaching perspective. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the coaches that have had that kind of impact on you, and they may not, some of whom you may admire from afar. So any coaches that you could talk about in terms of that influence?
So I got to go all the way back, like back. So Lawrence Thomas, no one knows who he is. He's a high school coach, senior. He's a high school coach at actually my rival high school in Springfield. And from like a young age, you know, you always have that close family member, or you have someone close to your family always saying, you're going to be the one, or you're going to be the one. And he used to always say that, and just be like, okay, you just, you know, you're just supporting me. But he said it at a really young age, like, you got the opportunity, you're going to be the one, you're going to make it out, you're going to go pro. And we still talk after every game. You know, he would send me texts all the time. Like, he put that confidence in me early. He coached me like 1 year, and he was the hardest coach to play for. Like, he stayed on me constantly, but he had that belief in me.
Before you go on to the next one, what did he see in you that made him say that?
I have no idea. I think I had the talent in terms of like I was long and lanky. I was always just skinny. My arms were just falling on the ground. And I was always well-rounded. So I could pass the ball, I could dribble. You know, I played point guard until college. So I had a skill set of a point guard at, and you know, most of the time you're 6'6" in high school, you're playing center. But I was doing things that normal high school kids didn't do in terms of my, you know, being fundamentally sound and handling the ball at my height. So he could see it at a young age, and my feet were always like this. So my body was trying to catch up the whole time. So being a basketball player, I know how tall someone's going to be. Like I can look and say, oh, he's not going to grow anymore. I can say, oh, this guy's going to be taller than me. So he kind of seen all these tangibles. And this older guy, you always wonder how these old guys get all this wisdom. But
Wow. They're coming back up. Someone just leaned against the light switch, by the way. Dude, I was kidding. I didn't even. I was totally making a joke.
by the way, Mustafa Shakur is a guy that leaned on the light. We played college together. We first met in high school at USA. Around the same time, Carmelo beat me 5-0. It was those tryouts.
He's apparently still trying to shut you down.
Yes.
What's going on, man? All right.
But yes, Lawrence Thomas. So sometimes you say, how do these old guys have this wisdom? And then obviously anybody who has kids, you just lay all this wisdom out on your kids, and they just don't listen. So that was me back then. So he laid all this wisdom out on me about in terms of why he thought I could, possibly make it, and I was just like, okay. But to me, I was just having fun. So he played a very key role in my confidence in nights I struggled in college. Somebody to call back home, and just keep my head straight. So he was a key figure. In terms of Coach Osen, he probably was the most influential coach. But in terms of confidence, I was in that phase where I didn't quite know how good I was under him because he was always telling me I could get better. And a lot of the guys always say your junior and your senior year are your times to really experience college and have fun and be a college student and just enjoy it all. But I never got there because I left after my sophomore year, so every day it was, Andre, you could be better. I had a triple-double one game, and he told me I didn't play well. You talking about breaking your confidence. But when I left college, so I wasn't, I don't know how to phrase this without it being taken out of context. I wasn't a Lute Olson fan until I got to the NBA. So in college, it was this guy that's constantly yelling at me every single day. And it was like, he was only yelling at me, and I never understood. But when I got to the NBA, and we started, like the first day, it's like, this is the drill, and this is the next drill, and this is the next drill. And I'm just going through the drill seamlessly, like, oh, okay, do this. And it's like breathing air. It's like something I've been doing forever. And then I'm watching guys who've been in the NBA for 10 years struggling. I'm like, he doesn't know this drill? And then you start to realize how the importance of a great coach. And Lute Olson just took a raw player. That's what he does, take raw players, polishes them up, gets them ready for the next level. And that's why you see a lot of University of Arizona basketball players have a lot of success in the NBA because we know the fundamentals. We understand how the game works. We know the strengths of the game and the weaknesses of the game and how to turn a weakness into a strength and all those things. So he was a very key figure in terms of my IQ in the game of basketball.
Part of what makes an effective coach is the ability to lead. And I know you give a lot of thought to leadership. I saw in an interview recently that you may have another book in you, and the subject may or may not be leadership. So it's probably something you spend a lot of time thinking about. You are known for your locker room presence. You recently became a vice president for the Players Association. Could you talk a little bit about your approach to leadership?
So I would go back to Coach Olson again. He had this thing where there was this one issue with me, and he would say, Andre, you never say it's your fault. And as the best player on your high school team or in college, most of the time it's not your fault. So I didn't understand what he was saying. Like, I would say, Coach, I threw the ball right to him, and it hit him in the chest and went out of bounds. Now, how is that my fault? But as you make mistakes, and I will say this, I was like very immature in terms of like, I was goofy. I was the goofiest kid around. Like in high school, I would knock guys' books out their hands when they carried them, papers everywhere. I would pull guys' pants down and in practice, like I was goofy, like jokester. So it was hard for me to grasp what he was trying to say. But as you get older, one thing I do try to do is learn from experiences and learn from mistakes and accept them. And that was the first step, was saying it's my fault. So finally I would say, my fault. Even if it wasn't my fault, I would just say it's my fault. And then you say it so much, it's like, okay, why am I saying it's my fault? But then you start to realize, okay, you have to know each one of your teammates. You have to know your guys in order to lead them. You got to know their strengths, you got to know their weaknesses, you got to know what gets them going, what might shut them down. And now you got to spend time with your guys. You know, now you got to know, okay, how many brothers, sisters does he have? You know, what was his life like? You got to get to know him. Now you're building, it's more than just basketball. Now you start to say, okay, I got a friend, or I got a close, I'm building a bond with this person. And you talk about what we built in our culture with the Warriors is like, we're really a family. And for me, all that stuff goes back to college and just this whole, the maturation process of me becoming a boy to a man and wanting to improve myself every day. And that's the key too, you gotta want to. So now I'm knowing, like, when I pass to this guy, he doesn't catch the ball well in traffic. So stop passing him the ball when he has two people around him. So that is my fault, because I'm putting him in a bad position, because that's his weakness. Or if I got a big guy who can't dribble, don't ever pass him the ball outside the three-point line. So all these things are going in your mind, and now 15 years later, when I'm in the finals and I'm guarding one of the top guys, or it's conference finals and I'm getting stripped to end the game, I'm so in tune and aware of the basketball court and each guy on the court, and even if they're behind me, I know where they're at. There's trust in Draymond I have behind me. All that's coming from the leadership Coach O helped me with by just saying my fault. So that simple thing, led me to so much success.
What you just described without using the words is something we spend a lot of time talking about here, which is managing compassionately. Yes. You were putting yourself in the shoes of your teammates. You were understanding their strengths and their weaknesses. You were playing to their strengths, trying to help them where they were weaker. Yes. Compassion, for those that don't know, you mentioned joy and the importance of joy to the Warrior team. And compassion is also one of the team's values, along with mindfulness and competition.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about what those values meant to the last several years and the success that the team had?
So we would start the year and we would say our team rules and our team values. And Coach would break down each value and say what they would mean. And throughout each season, it was one we could struggle with, or two we would struggle with. And anytime we got in a little rut, and it was more than you would think, because it's a long season and you're with the same guys 70% of the day, every day. Like, you're with these guys more than your family. So, sometimes we would have to reel it back in and start back at ground zero and say, okay, where we at? Okay, here's where we're struggling. How do we get back to our values and then build from there and put us right back in a situation we feel like we should be in? And for us, it was a little bit more delicate because we lost 9 games one year, which is the least amount of games lost in one year in the history of the game. So now the standard is here for us. If we lost 1 game, if we lost 2 games in a row, it was like the end of the world, right? So imagine coming into practice, you just lost 2 games in a row. The media saying it's over for the dynasty. Like, teams lose 2 games in a row. Like, these teams have lost 30 games, 20 games in a row, right? So those are the moments Steve took, and he was really good at observing the temperature of the team and the emotions, just off the little stuff. Just like, one article can be written and it can throw us all off because we're not sure where it's coming from or who said what. That's just the nature of a winning organization. Like I said, that people can become envious of. So he would go back to, the main thing he would go back to was joy. So that was something we had to bring around a lot, is because we all enjoy playing the game, but when certain things start seeping in, and it seems like if you only hear the negative stuff, and that's what can happen when you have so much success. Is like, he would be like, guys, remember, like, we're still number 2 in defense in the league. We still lead the league in assists, meaning we're sharing, meaning you actually like each other, meaning you're passing it to each other. And then once you start breaking, it's like, oh, all right, we're fine. So let's just relax. And then we'll do team exercises. Like we would have a ping pong tournament instead of practice, or we did bowling one day, or
Winning ping pong tournaments.
So Steph is like the weirdest human being on earth. So he has this hand-eye coordination thing where he's just good at everything. Him and Clay. So they usually end up in the finals of whatever it is that we're doing.
Except Uno.
We haven't played Uno. So I think probably myself and Draymond be good at Uno. Or I'm really good at Connect Four. I'm surprised we never did Connect Four. If anyone wants to challenge me at Connect Four, I'm really good.
You're going to have a line of like 100 people after this, Andre. So staying on this idea of the ingredients of championship teams, you've had success at a lot of different levels. You won a world championship, you won Olympic gold, you won 3 championships with the Warriors. You've also been on some very good teams that weren't able to achieve that kind of success. What do you think is the key differentiator between a great team and a good team?
Well, I'll be honest and say that I'll answer that question, the difference between a good team and a great team. But the one thing I try to do on every team that I've been on, and I learned this younger. I learned this like my third year in the league. So we made the playoffs the first year. We didn't make it the second or the third year. So after that third year, what I learned was maybe we aren't the most talented team, but we can maximize ourselves. And that's when I started to grow. And playing in Philadelphia helped me because I had to grow up quick. Like, I was still like growing up, but when you play in a city like Philly, and in terms of, like, I tell my teammates all the time, like, this media stuff is child's play compared to playing in Philadelphia, where they are on you constantly, and if you don't win, they will let you know. But it helped me grow up in terms of, like, I had to be on point every game. Like, it was sometimes the home games, I was the most focused because I was like, I don't want to hear one boo tonight. So we gonna play to our highest capabilities. So what I was able to do was, those are the closest bonds that I've had as well. I mean, with the Warriors, I have some close bonds, but when in Philadelphia, we had guys that were right on the cusp of being out the league. Sometimes you have guys on the cusp of superstardom and like the all-star, like it's the fine line, and they're just trying to get there. But with us, we had guys that were just hanging on with being a professional athlete. And what I try to do is help them be there as long as possible. And we had some really good veterans. So when I look back at that, we maximized ourselves. Like, we didn't miss the playoffs again after that. And we challenged every team we faced, ended up going to the finals. I think we played Miami once or twice. We played Orlando when they went to the finals. So we played really tough teams, and we made them play their best. Detroit, another year, and we really made them play their best basketball in order to beat us. So sometimes I tell people you may not have a realistic opportunity to go to the finals, but you can still put the effort as if you're trying to get there. And I feel like that's what I did. Now in terms of, and that's the difference between great and good, actually, is the great teams. I mean, you may not win a championship, but you can be a great team because you maximized who you were. And the good teams, they enjoy the game. They like playing. they like it when they get their numbers, they get their averages. You know, they like the lifestyle, they like traveling, going to different hotels. You know, they like playing in the NBA. But it's the little stuff, the little extra effort. You know, having more joy in the 12th man or the 13th man getting 5 minutes more than they get the joy in them scoring 20 points. Like when you see our young guys in the game, when Steve always says, guys, have compassion for everything on the court. We should win by 20 tonight. So let's make sure these guys get the last 6 minutes of the game so they can showcase their skills. That's having a respect for the game. That's the little things that get overlooked that say, okay, we're a great team because we have the right mindset. We have the reverence. I like using that word, reverence, for the game or for whatever it is that we do. That will in turn say, you know, you reap what you sow, and we're planting good seed, and they're not intentions for ourselves individually, but for everyone as a whole.
Let's start to, if you have questions, maybe you could start to get a line going, and I'll ask a couple more while we're getting people prepared. You have mentioned media scrutiny, fan scrutiny a few different times. Playing in the modern era with social media has to have taken that to a completely different level. The positives behind that are fan interest is at an all-time high.
Yes.
Ratings are doing well.
Yes.
Business is good for the NBA.
Yes.
The downside is unimaginable in terms of the negative energy that one could be on the receiving end of. Could you talk a little bit about being a professional athlete in the modern era?
So Adam Silver just, he made a statement, or he had an interview, he spoke about that in terms of he's seeing more and more guys with the hoods on, the headphones on, or the AirPods in, and with the phones. And it's like we always make this beeline to where we're going. So we're never able to really have peripheral vision because we're afraid of what can seep in from either side of us.
Bad fans, the bad fans.
Right, and we've always, you know, you're taught early on branding. I mean, LinkedIn is essentially branding. You know, you're branding, you have branding for yourself. This is what I represent. This is what I want to be a part of. You know, this is who I am. These are the brands that I align myself with. So we have this thing where as professional athletes, they always say protect the brand. You know, engage with the fans. You know, engage with sponsors. Network as much as possible. You know, let others know what team you play for, the affiliations you have. Support the game supports you. So you're taught this at an early age, but then you get in the real world and you start engaging with the fans, and now you have a bad game. And you want to interact with your fans, so we naturally look at our mentions. And everyone says it's easy. Oh, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. It's like, you can't have it both ways. Either look at it or don't. Which one? You know. At the end of the day, it's perfect to have the right balance, but having the right balance, you still see the negative. And people don't. I think sometimes we don't give enough attention to, like you said, energy. And negative energy plays a huge part in who we become. And like you just look at mankind historically, and we've seen what happens in nations or groups where a negative energy has grown into a hate group or to something that's changed the course of the world. And I'm an athlete, I understand that. And it's not on that scale, but it does have an effect on the mind. And that's when you start talking about mental wellness and mental health and the things that we can do to give ourselves the right balance. So I always tell the guys to meditate, and I don't meditate enough, but I guess I am because I constantly am saying meditate. Like every day I hear myself saying meditate, and I give myself a chance to just take a breath and say be in the present. Because in the social media landscape now, I feel like we aren't living in the present. Either we're in the past or we're trying to get out the present by looking into the future. You know, when we have a bad game and you get a tweet and saying, why are you on social media? You should be shooting free throw. Or why aren't you practicing? Or don't show your interest at all. Like if it's an interest outside of whatever your profession is, don't show that. Because as soon as you have a bad game, you're probably playing golf. That's why you had a bad game. You know what I mean? So, but you see all this stuff, and you got a lot of young guys who are still trying to figure out how to balance it all, and you wonder why there's so much turnover now. Like the turnover is getting higher and higher. Like it used to be that, 6 years wasn't that far of a reach in terms of years in the NBA. And now I think they're saying like every 2-3 years, half the league is out and a new half is in. And all these guys are talented enough. It's just getting your mind in the right state to try to balance it all and put yourself in the right mind space. And it's starting in high school. It's starting earlier and earlier with the way the kids are being exploited. Because like you said, the fan engagement's at the highest, the business is doing well, there's so much money involved that the others are trying to seep in and take parts of it, and they're trying to use the athletes to get access and get a part of it, but it's at the athlete's expense.
Okay, I'm sure we've got a fair number of people who've got questions. We're unfortunately probably not going to be able to get to everyone. In terms of time management, you got a hard stop coming up?
We good. Rich got it. Rich knows.
Can we go a little
If I go
over?
I'll just blame Rich, so everybody's good.
What's that? A little over 12. All right, I'll try to manage. 5 minutes over? All right, try to manage accordingly. For those that, and I think it's everyone here, who have followed Andre and have seen the interviews that he's done, even though he doesn't apparently always like to do the post-game interviews, you know he's incredibly open and candid and thoughtful. So I think he's going to be comfortable with just about any kind of question, but I would add this. As we all know, he was recently traded, and there are active discussions still happening. So I'd like to ask for folks to just avoid that part of the questioning, but hopefully...
But it's good practice if you do ask.
There you go. You heard it from the man. Bring it on. All right, so...
Yeah. What I have learned is that sometimes I can be too open, and I'm too honest. So this is good practice. So ask whatever.
Have at it.
Hi, Andre. Congratulations on the bestseller.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the Black Inclusion Group here at LinkedIn, you talked about belonging and your belonging moments, and that's something that's really important to our inclusion group. I'm curious about using your voice as an athlete in the space as an African-American athlete. We hear a lot about just be athlete, don't talk about anything else. We heard a lot with our basketball players and recently with Serena. Can you just talk about how you balance that, especially as you are entering into the world of, or in the world of entrepreneurship and as an investor? How are you letting people know that you belong in that space by using your voice and amplifying your voice?
Well, that's a really good question. So that's been a good topic of discussion with me and my team. And I'm really open and honest because, I've read about so many different athletes along the way who've sacrificed. You talk about Muhammad Ali, you talk about Jim Brown, and then, you can even go modern day, you talk about Colin Kaepernick. And then I know guys like Craig Hodges that no one knows about, and then I know about Chris Jackson, AKA Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and some of the ways that some who've been in a position of power have been able to express themselves, but they've been in that elite status to where their voice can be heard and it can't be blocked out. And I know other guys who have been very open and honest about things, but they weren't in a position of power and they were silenced and their careers were cut short. So for me, it could, like I always use that gift and the curse analogy in terms of it's a gift because I've had enough success and I feel like I've maximized my time on the court to where I have that I don't have anything to lose mindset. So it's like, I'm just gonna say whatever I feel. but I have good intentions in what I'm trying to say. So I'm trying to help a bunch of people who may feel the way that I feel, or there's an issue that may arise and we might be afraid to say it because we want to be politically correct, or we might be afraid of the backlash that might come with it, and it might in turn go into our pockets, and potential endorsements or potential deals may be taken away. But for me, I feel like I don't mind losing that. And I don't feel like I am losing it because I feel like I've maximized what I can do. So if I can say something for a guy, that's just how I feel. And I feel like with the way the valuations are going in sports, the athletes are becoming more powerful as well. So you see guys like LeBron who they aren't afraid to speak as well. And anytime he has an issue that he feels needs to be addressed, he's not afraid to address it. He goes straight at it and he attacks it. And that's the good of it. And the curse of it would be, my business partner is African American and he understands where I'm coming from, but he's like, listen, you don't always have to go for the jugular. You can finesse it sometimes. So that's the balance that I'm still working with. But for the most part, I'm never regretful of what I've said. So that's my stance.
Hey, Andre, really big fan.
Thank you.
My name's Marco, by the way. But anyways, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and you mentioned that you've invested in 35 startups here in the Silicon Valley. I wanted to know how you balance your time and how do you decide which startups to go with? And are you doing a lot of research, or are you just not sleeping, or how's that guy?
That's a good question. So when you become a professional athlete, one of the first things that we go through this summit, or we go through a camp, like a rookie camp. It's called the Rookie Transition Program. And they tell you right away, like, you have so much free time. Like, you don't understand how much free time you have. You're really in the gym like 3-4 hours a day, like 4 hours max. Like, the body can only handle so much physical work. And then you play 82 games, so we've had times where practice is 30 minutes. So what I've learned is how to get a schedule and how to manage the time. And then this is kind of one of the secret things I give to my teammates is, it's not really a secret, it's almost just like a gem you can give the guys, GEM. So it's like, you surround yourself with your interest. And once you start doing that, the information starts flowing in more and more and more and more. And once that information starts flowing in, you can manage it. So for me, it's like, I wake up in the morning to practice and I'm listening to an audiobook or I'm listening to Bloomberg radio. And like, but that's why he is who he is.
Oh, hang on.
His phone can...
Hang on. It's my daughter. Oh. She's FaceTiming me, and she loves you. Wait. Hi, honey. Babe, just so you know, I'm interviewing Andre.
Hold on, so just so you know, if your dad was in the NBA and his phone went off in a meeting, he would be fined $10,000.
Babe, here's that. It's two little girls. So.
How y'all doing?
All right, I got to go back to the interview, guys. I'll talk to you later. Her eyes were like this. She was literally like, what just happened? All right, sorry about that.
The fine's not $10,000, but it sounded better for them. But like I was saying, in terms of, you just surround yourself with your interest and you start realizing like the information's coming in more and more. And then now when I'm having conversations with you all, I'm able to talk the talk and I'm able to walk the walk and we can have those conversations. And I get a lot of, like, I can look in faces and when I'm talking sometimes to people, especially in the tech world, they're like surprised, like, or they'll text my business partners like, wow, we were impressed. And it's like, I'm not impressed because I'm just trying to get where you are. So I'm like in school right now. So I'm just in college, but in the real world. And I actually enjoy doing it. And it's like that challenge. Like I said, it's like the competitor in me is to go into a meeting and kill it. You know what I mean? Like you listen to music before you go to the game. It's like I'm listening to music before I get here. Or I'm on Wikipedia, you know, or I might be looking at the stock price. I'm like, I'm ready. I got all the information. I can't wait. So that's just what it's become. It's like I've just surrounded my environment to help me balance everything. So I know little pockets of time where I can do my homework, I can study, and then I can still have time with the wife and kids, and then still perform at a high level on the basketball court.
You did Zoom, and you did Carta, among other successes you've had. After you sign the paperwork, do you then do this? Like, you do any of that? Like, yeah, I'm good at this.
It's a little different. This is like, I don't know what it is, but it's like I got more work to do. So after I sign it, it's like, all right, now what's next? What's next? What's next? It's like I have this big goal to bring a whole bunch of athletes with me who look like me, who were never able to be in this space. So it's like I'm still crawling, trying to walk, and I got a lot of work in front of me, so I'm just grinding away. Maybe in like 10, 15 years out.
Got that? You got the hands?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Andre. Huge fan. Thank you for all that you've done for the Bay. Okay, I'm such a real fan. I'm like buzzing. Okay, we always talk about how unique our culture here is with the Warriors and the Bay. What was part of your thought process or decision making when you chose to come to the Warriors and build along Steph when many free agents overlooked us?
So it was like perfect timing with my off-court interests and my on-court interests, which never really align unless you're going to like the Lakers or sometimes the Knicks, depending on the century when they're good. I'm kidding. Kidding. I'm joking. Okay, so like it's rare that the interests align, but around just before that I had got an E-Trade. They're gonna kill me on social media for that. But I started E-Trade account. I was trading a lot of tech stocks, which we were having some successes right after the recession, so everything's on the up and up again. We were just coming out of it. And I saw some success there, and my old agent was always talking about the Golden State Warriors, and it'd be good to get into tech stuff there. I'm like, people don't realize when you used to say the Golden State Warriors, like, we didn't even know where that was. Like, it's like we're flying into San Francisco, but we're not playing in San Francisco. And we got to take a bus back. It was like the logistics of it were crazy. I was like, where are we? So it was just perfect timing. And then it was good that I played against the Warriors in the playoffs and really got a chance to see the team. When you play against a team in the playoffs, you play against them 6, 7 times straight, you really get to know them. Like, you know everything about them. Like, you get the stack this big of everything, every play, every tendency, the players, the height, weight, like college statistics, everything, like where they went to high school. And it's like, I know what this guy's eating. Like, I can smell it on their breath. Like you really get to know these guys. So I felt like, after that series, I was like, yo, that would be an amazing place to play basketball, to have joy. Like, I saw that in their eyes. It's like, okay, these guys are really enjoying playing the game. Even after a loss, I'd be like, man, they really like playing basketball. So that was one of my goals in that free agency, was like, man, I just want to have fun again. It's like you lose the joy of it, going through so much, been through a trade and, playing in certain places or seeing certain things happening around the game. That was when LeBron made his decision and seeing the backlash that he got. It was like, yo, I just want to just play basketball and have fun. So this was the perfect place.
You mentioned the Lakers, you mentioned LeBron. Who finishes with the better record, Clippers or Lakers? Not touching that?
Nope.
Finally found a question you won't answer. All right, there you go. There's where the line is drawn, apparently. All right, what do you got?
I wanted to touch on a point you made on the Breakfast Club. You said that we priced out our real fans. And you spoke on the financial implications of that, but also some of the negative consequences of that as an organization. But as an individual, how do you maintain and find joy in playing and everything around the NBA when you start to realize your surroundings are no longer as authentic as they once were?
That's a very good question. So I noticed it one at a time. I don't know if I can, he probably wouldn't care if I said his name. That should tell you who he is. One of my teammates, we were talking in the finals one time. This is in the finals, and we were like, yo, like where's the energy? Like, where's the energy? Like, it was loud, but it wasn't like, year one when I was here, and it was that Warriors chant, and you can just kind of like feel it. You know what I mean? And we talk about, more engagement, more eyeballs and evaluations, but, there's give and take. The scale is like this in terms of the purity of the game and the business side of the game. You always want to hear, and sometimes the scales can tip each way. And I feel that's the after effects of the evaluations and being able to maximize the dollar of the game. And, you tend to price out the people who are the loudest or who are the most into the game with their feelings and their energy. And that's always something I talk about, let's have a good balance with, because it can be taken the wrong way and saying, I don't like these dry, rich people in the arena, and that's not the case. But you want to have a good mix of everybody. And the biggest influence that athletes have are on those who come from where they come from, because 99% of the time, that's their only way out. As we know, we say sports and we say entertainment is our only way out, and those are the guys who we look up to. That's why I feel like I have this duty. I always say I read a lot, and I read this one thing in this book, and it sits with me every day. Once you've mastered something, it is your duty. It is your duty to give it back. Like, that's the next step. So for me is to, like I always say, like, don't give me a corporate event, or if it is a corporate event, bring some kids that's where I'm from, and let me interact with them. And then let them know that this isn't your only avenue, and there are other ways. And that's where a lot of the off-court stuff will come in terms of me investing and getting into the tech community, is also tackling this, 1% or 2% minority hiring rate of just us, and that's not enough. So, but we don't have the resources to send that information to these kids to put them in a position where they actually be here. So that's where that comes from.
Andre, first off, thank you so much for showing the Bay Area and Warriors fans everywhere what a real strong team can look like, and your role in that. I mean, if you look around the NBA, there aren't other teams. They're 2, 3, 4 years behind. Maybe you're thinking a different way now, but you guys have totally changed the culture of the NBA, and we just want to say thank you for doing that, and you're part of that. And you've said before to the media that it hasn't even been acknowledged in a lot of different areas, a lot of different times. You've also had tough times with the media in your own right, and you mentioned that it's so tough when you come off the court and you play 3-hour game and you guys are peppered with all these questions. You have a $10,000 fine for your phone going off in the middle of a meeting. Like, there's so many issues with the media culture in the NBA, and I was curious what your recommendation would be for improving that.
So I was thinking about it. I think about this a lot this summer. It was saying get the true essence of journalism back in the game. And what we're doing now is we're looking for hits. Hits is it. Just get hits. Just get hits. Just get attraction. Just get eyeballs. I did an article with a guy from ESPN a long time ago, and then he texted me like, "This is getting the most hits. It's getting the most eyeballs." And it wasn't anything negative. It was actually a good article. And I was saying we should try to just let those things happen organically. Like, don't try to get someone to click on it with 2 words or 3 words, because that's what it's become. And now that's what everyone's looking for. Now you're seeing outlets who aren't even present at an interview taking an excerpt from the interview to get a click on their site. And then they're taking everything out of context. And that's what it's become. But that's actually where you raise the valuation and it's brought more money to the game. So, like I said, you got to have the right balance. And for me, it's just the game is better when it's played the right way, the game of basketball. I feel like the same way with anything. So in terms of the media or writing, you're going to get more benefits when it's done purely or you got good intentions. Even when if you can write a bad story about a guy, you can say a guy's not in shape, a guy's not working hard, a guy's selfish, the guy's not playing for his team. That's fine, but just put your proof in the pudding and display it to where there's a journalistic essence to it, where it's true to form and it's pure, and you did your homework, and everything you were taught in college to get that degree was put into that, and not just from exploiting someone to make $1 off of it.
Okay, maybe time for one last one. And then my understanding is Andre's going to be signing books. And where is that going to be? Right over here at this table? Great. Okay, so one last question, then I'll wrap things up.
My guy, Iggy.
You guys laughing at how long the line's going to be to get your book signed?
I've been signing books for like 2 months. It's going to be quick.
All right, hold on. Guys, wait. Hold your seats. Please hold your seats.
No, I'm good at it. Don't worry.
No, I'm saying before everyone starts rushing the stage. But all right, go ahead.
First off, Iggy, my guy, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know you have fully immersed yourself into like investing.
Folks, just kind of settle down until we finish things, please.
I know you have fully immersed yourself into investing in technology, essentially becoming a tech entrepreneur. How were you able to break into the tech scene while playing like the strenuous and like psychologically demanding sport of basketball? And also, since the last question, how do you think athletes can, impact their own communities by investing in tech?
Yes, great question. So the first one, I just surrounded myself with the right, I should say person, the right people. So my business partner, Rudy Klein Thomas, like he just emailed everybody in the Bay Area. And when we first got here, we didn't get too much positive response, but from one guy, Jeff Jordan, I got to give him a lot of respect. He embraced us, he brought us in and gave us a rundown of how it worked, but he told me I had to hold myself accountable and we had to put our work in and we had to let him know that we were serious. So he opened the door for us, and like everyone says, you get that window of opportunity, you just got to attack it and you got to maximize it. So, it's just like playing basketball. You put energy into wanting to be in the NBA, you put energy into this, and we have a passion for it. In terms of how can athletes get back to the communities, you're starting to see it more and more. And athletes are becoming more business savvy. And then I'll just be quick with it. Mustafa Shakur is here right now, and we've started a United Tech Cities. And what we're trying to do is we have this mission to put these tech hubs in urban communities. And you got places like Black Girls Code. You got places like the Hidden Genius program is teaching African American males how to code, and in turn they're going out and they're teaching these private schools and these schools in the suburbs how to code, and they're actually getting paid for it. So we have these initiatives, co-working spaces. There's a business platform as well in there where the community actually, there's a co-op with the community to actually run a business, and the money flows throughout the community. It started in Cleveland. Yeah, we started in Cleveland. They did this program, and we're taking kind of the benefits from that. So we have this initiatives. I'm drawing a blank right now, but we're starting to get in the Bay. We've had a lot of talks with different places, and this is going to be our proof of concept, the first one, and hopefully it does really well, and we can start implementing this plan in a lot of different urban cities all across the country to change that percentage in terms of the influence we have on tech companies.
It's awesome. Thank you so much, Iggy. Thank you.
Don. So you mentioned joy on a number of different occasions during the last hour, and I want to once again, on behalf of all of us here, on behalf of all of your fans, thank you for the joy that you've brought us over the last 6 years. And you're going to be dearly missed.
I won't be missed because I'm
on the court.
I'm not
on the court.
on the court.
On the court. You are going to be dearly missed. Trust me, you're going to be dearly missed.
Thank you.
Off the court, I want to thank you for sharing your insight, your perspective, and your incredible wisdom with us. Very deeply appreciated. And speaking of not being missed, Bob Myers, if you're listening, work your magic and bring Andre back.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you.